Imagine being only 20 years old and suddenly becoming the king of one of the strongest kingdoms in the ancient world. Most people would spend years trying to secure their throne, afraid of rebellion and betrayal. But one young king had a much bigger dream. He didn't just want to rule a kingdom, he wanted to conquer the entire known world. His name was Alexander, and history would remember him as Alexander the Great. Born in 356 BC in the ancient kingdom of Macedon, Alexander was destined for greatness from the very beginning. His father, King Philip II, transformed Macedon into a military powerhouse. His queen, Olympias, believed that her son was chosen by the gods for an extraordinary destiny. Whether those stories were true or not, one thing is certain. Alexander grew up believing he was meant to achieve something no one else had ever accomplished. As a child, Alexander was curious, fearless, and incredibly intelligent. He loved learning about heroes like Achilles from Greek mythology. He dreamed of becoming even greater than the legends he admired. To prepare him for the future, his father hired one of the greatest philosophers in history as his personal teacher. That teacher was Aristotle. Under Aristotle's guidance, Alexander learned philosophy, science, medicine, literature, politics, and geography. But he didn't only study books. He learned how different cultures lived, how leaders gained loyalty, and how knowledge could become a weapon just as powerful as a sword. These lessons shaped the way he would rule conquered lands later in life. One famous story from Alexander's childhood reveals his extraordinary confidence. A wild horse named Bucephalus was brought to the royal court. The animal was so aggressive that no one could control it. Experienced horse trainers failed one after another. Instead of being afraid, young Alexander carefully observed the horse. He realized it was frightened by its own shadow. Turning the horse towards the sun, he calmly approached it and successfully mounted it. The crowd was amazed. King Philip proudly told his son that Macedon was too small for him and that he should seek a kingdom worthy of his ambition. Years later, tragedy struck. In 336 BC, King Philip II was assassinated during a public celebration. At only 20 years old, Alexander became king. Many enemies believed the young ruler would be weak and inexperienced. Several Greek city-states rebelled, hoping to regain their independence. Alexander reacted with astonishing speed. He crushed the rebellions before they could spread. The city of Thebes resisted him, believing others would join the uprising. Instead, Alexander destroyed the city almost completely while sparing temples and the descendants of famous poets. The destruction of Thebes sent a clear message across Greece. No one doubted his authority again. With Greece secured, Alexander turned his attention toward the mighty Persian Empire. At that time, Persia was the largest empire in the world, stretching across modern-day Iran, Iraq, Egypt, Turkey, and beyond. Many believed defeating Persia was impossible, but Alexander believed impossible was simply another challenge waiting to be conquered. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia with around 40,000 soldiers. Before beginning his campaign, he reportedly visited the legendary city of Troy, honoring the heroes he had admired since childhood. It was as if he wanted to connect his own story with the greatest legends of the past. The first major battle came at the Granicus River. Persian commanders expected the Macedonian army to struggle while crossing the river. Instead, Alexander personally led the charge through dangerous waters, inspiring his soldiers with unmatched bravery. The Macedonians won a decisive victory, opening the gates of Asia Minor. Alexander's leadership was unlike that of most kings. He did not hide behind his army. He fought on the front lines, sharing the same dangers as his soldiers. Again and again, he risked his own life during battles. His men admired him not because he commanded them from safety, but because he led by example. The next great confrontation came at the Battle of Issus in 333 BC, where Alexander faced the Persian king Darius III himself. Although Darius commanded a much larger army, Alexander used superior tactics and discipline. At the critical moment, he launched a direct attack toward Darius. Seeing Alexander approaching, the Persian king panicked and fled the battlefield. Once their king escaped, the Persian army collapsed into chaos. Instead of celebrating endlessly, Alexander continued advancing. He captured wealthy cities along the Mediterranean coast. Some surrendered peacefully, others resisted fiercely. One of the toughest challenges was the island city of Tyre. Protected by strong walls and surrounded by the sea, Tyre seemed impossible to capture. Alexander refused to accept defeat. He ordered his engineers to build a massive stone causeway connecting the mainland to the island. For 7 months, his army worked under constant attack until they reached the city walls. After intense fighting, Tyre finally fell. This victory demonstrated Alexander's determination. Whenever obstacles blocked his path, he found new ways around them instead of giving up. After Tyre, Alexander marched east into Egypt. Unlike many previous conquerors, he was welcomed as a liberator because the Egyptians disliked Persian rule. They crowned him as pharaoh. During his stay, he founded a new city on the Mediterranean coast called Alexandria. It would later become one of the greatest centers of learning, trade, and culture in the ancient world. Alexander also traveled deep into the Egyptian desert to visit the Oracle of Siwa. Ancient writers claimed the priests greeted him as the son of Zeus Ammon, strengthening Alexander's belief that he had a divine mission. Whether this truly happened remains uncertain, but it certainly influenced the legends surrounding him. Leaving Egypt, Alexander marched east once again to confront Darius in what would become the decisive Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC. Darius assembled an enormous army equipped with war elephants, scythed chariots, and cavalry from across his empire. Many believed Alexander's smaller force had no chance, but Alexander carefully studied the battlefield. He used brilliant tactics to create gaps in the Persian lines before launching a powerful attack directly at Darius. Once again, Darius fled. This time, the Persian Empire effectively collapsed. Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis, the magnificent capitals of Persia, all fell into Alexander's hands. Persepolis was one of the richest cities in the world. Its palaces displayed unimaginable wealth collected over centuries. During a celebration, a fire broke out and destroyed much of the palace complex. Historians still debate whether Alexander ordered the destruction intentionally as revenge against Persia, or whether it happened accidentally during drunken festivities. The truth remains one of history's enduring mysteries. Although he had already conquered the greatest empire on earth, Alexander refused to stop. He continued east into Central Asia, crossing mountains, deserts, and dangerous rivers. His campaigns became increasingly difficult as local tribes fought fierce guerrilla wars. Yet Alexander adapted to every new challenge, establishing cities and military outposts wherever he went. During these campaigns, Alexander married Roxana, a noblewoman from Bactria. This marriage symbolized his broader vision. Unlike many conquerors who ruled through fear alone, Alexander often encouraged cooperation between different cultures. He adopted certain Persian customs, appointed local officials, and encouraged marriages between Macedonians and Persians. His goal was not simply to conquer lands, but to unite diverse peoples into one empire. Eventually, Alexander reached the borders of India. There he faced one of his greatest opponents, King Porus, at the Battle of the Hydaspes River in 326 BC. Porus commanded powerful war elephants, terrifying animals unfamiliar to Macedonian soldiers. Despite difficult weather and dangerous river crossings, Alexander launched a surprise attack. The battle was long and brutal. Although Alexander emerged victorious, he was deeply impressed by Porus's courage. When asked how he wished to be treated, Porus reportedly answered, "Treat me like a king." Alexander admired this response and allowed Porus to continue ruling his kingdom as an ally. By now, Alexander's army had marched thousands of miles over nearly a decade. His soldiers were exhausted. They had crossed deserts, climbed mountains, fought countless battles, and lived far from home for years. When Alexander proposed marching even farther east, his men refused. For the first time, the conqueror who had defeated every enemy could not overcome the will of his own army. Reluctantly, Alexander agreed to turn back. The return journey proved devastating. Crossing the harsh Gedrosian desert, thousands of soldiers died from thirst, hunger, and unbearable heat. Even Alexander suffered alongside his men, refusing special treatment whenever possible. Finally, returning to Babylon, Alexander began planning new campaigns. He dreamed of conquering Arabia and perhaps lands even farther west. But destiny had other plans. In 323 BC, at only 32 years old, Alexander suddenly became seriously ill after days of fever. Despite the efforts of physicians, his condition worsened. Ancient historians proposed many possible causes, including malaria, typhoid fever, infection, or poisoning. Modern experts still debate the exact reason for his death. As Alexander lay dying, his generals reportedly asked who should inherit his empire. According to one famous tradition, he answered, "To the strongest." Whether he actually spoke those words remains uncertain, but what happened afterwards certainly reflected them. Without a clear successor, Alexander's vast empire quickly fragmented. His generals fought each other for decades, dividing the conquered territories into separate kingdoms. Although his political empire did not survive, his influence lasted for centuries. Alexander founded more than 20 cities, many named Alexandria. These cities became centers of commerce, education, and cultural exchange. Greek language, art, philosophy, architecture, and science spread across enormous regions from Egypt to India. This blending of Greek and Eastern cultures created what historians call the Hellenistic Age, shaping civilization long after Alexander's death. Military leaders throughout history have admired Alexander's strategies. Julius Caesar, Hannibal, Napoleon Bonaparte, and many modern commanders studied his campaigns. His ability to move armies rapidly, adapt to changing situations, inspire loyalty, and seize opportunities continues to be taught in military academies even today. Yet Alexander's legacy remains complex. To some, he was a visionary who connected civilizations and encouraged cultural exchange. To others, he was a relentless conqueror whose ambition brought destruction, suffering, and countless deaths. Both perspectives contain elements of truth. What cannot be denied is the extraordinary scale of his achievements. In just over 10 years, Alexander created one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. He never lost a single battle. He transformed history before dying at the age when many people today are only beginning their careers. More than 2,000 years later, the name Alexander the Great still inspires fascination. His life reminds us of the incredible power of ambition, leadership, intelligence, and determination. But it also serves as a reminder that even the greatest conqueror cannot conquer time itself. Kingdoms rise and fall, empires disappear, and legends become history. Yet the story of the young king who dared to chase the impossible continues to captivate the world, proving that true greatness is remembered not only for what it achieves, but for how deeply it changes the course of human history.